beginnings. You might have read or heard one of the chief exorcists made a statement, and he said that he had seen a 40% rise in demonic possession, and that he attributed it to the popularity of yoga. But actually, if we study the yogic scriptures, we can find that yoga actually could lead to demonic possession, the practice of yoga. And that there are stories of many bona fide egotistical demons who became very powerful demonic beings. One in particular, you might have heard of him, Hiranyakashipu, was so serious about yoga that he just didn't stand on one leg with the opposite leg bent in Vrikshasana or tree, but he stood on his tiptoes with his arms raised up. He became very powerful. So powerful that he exploited and enslaved almost the whole world at that time. It was a long time ago, but it happened. And he also practiced yoga. I'm talking about yoga asanas, pranayama, meditation, all these things that we all do. He didn't want to worship God, he wanted to be God. Wanted to be God, wanted to lord over everything. But then Hanuman came along, and Hanuman also practiced yoga. But the difference was a big difference. And it's the difference that Patanjali talks about in the Yoga Sutra. Patanjali says, the intention behind our actions will determine the result of our actions. So the actions in and of themselves are empty. It's up to us. It's what we're thinking about, what is motivating us, what we're wanting from the action that we're engaged in. You can practice yoga to become stronger, more flexible, more powerful, more charismatic. But the wise practice yoga to become more humble, to remember God, and to rid themselves of all selfish and petty motivations so that they can enhance the lives of others, so they can be kinder people, so they're not caught in the complaining and blaming syndrome that is affecting a great many of us on planet Earth at this time. Research says that the average person, when they're engaged in a conversation, complains at least one time every minute. And complaining rewires your brain. As we do, so we become. Because when you start complaining, and you do it regularly, the neurons in the brain branch out to make connections. And if you keep repeating that behavior, then you actually rewire your brain so complaining is easier the next time. And then it becomes second nature, and it's difficult to stop yourself. But of course, yoga, if we want yoga to help us rewire our brains towards something really positive, we can do that. But we have to want that more than we want to stay in a negative, pessimistic place. And we have to want it so badly that we would work very hard to overcome those old habits. Yesterday, a friend of ours sent us a list of 99 really good things that happened in 2016. And there were lots of things on that list that had to do with animals, positive things, where human beings more and more are viewing other animals as people and respecting them and treating them as such. And the major newspapers in America, like the New York Times and the LA Times and the Chicago Tribune, are running positive, animal-friendly, positive articles once a week, on the average, sometimes more. This is huge. It's really huge in the history of human beings. And there was one really wonderful story on that list. It was an Indian man who lived in Mumbai. And he lived in an apartment building on the beach. And he said that every day he'd get up and have his tea, and he'd look out on his balcony. And if you've ever been to the beach in Mumbai, then you know that it is very littered. So this man decided one day, instead of just looking out his window and saying, "Oh, that's terrible, that's terrible," and going to his neighbors and saying, "Why doesn't the government do something? This is terrible. What can, you know?" He knocked on his neighbor's door, who was an 84-year-old man, retired, and he said, "I'm going down to the beach. Would you like to go with me?" They went down to the beach, and they started to pick up the garbage. And people saw these two men there, and they started to pick up garbage with them. And it became an epidemic. It spread. They were doing something about a situation and not waiting for somebody else and not complaining about the situation. And over a few months' time, they have cleaned that beach of, now, look at the numbers, was it like a large amount, like 4,000 tons of garbage. And that was very, very wonderful. Thank you for listening.
You know, the main reason I like coming here on New Year's Eve is because I can be sure that for the first hour of this year I haven't screwed it up yet. Because you see, that's the main thing. The idea is a new year. It means new possibilities. And so you have to let go of the old one for that to happen. Most, you know, in yoga they use this term, be here now. And it's supposed to be the way that we do what Sharon was talking about, that we clear ourselves of action that is motivated by anger or resentment or fear, and then instead we replace those actions with actions that arise out of clarity, consciousness, wisdom. The primary motivation in our world is self-concern. Where's mine? So this be here now thing is not easy. To let go of your history, to let go of your worry about what's going to happen next, and just be present. It's difficult because here doesn't stop so you can be it. Here keeps moving. So what we're talking about is an exercise of joining with that movement instead of pushing against it. Something we spend a lot of time doing. Pushing against the government, pushing against our friends, pushing against our kids, pushing against our parents, pushing against the landlord. When do we start going with? When do we become not just part of the flow? When do we become the instigators of the flow? When do we create current and direction? When does that happen? When do we grow up? For God's sakes. Why is it a new year? We do this every 365 days. We stand here and we say how much better we could do and we call it new, but it's not. It's the same old thing over and over and over, and we call it samsara. We call it the same agitation, the same suffering over and over. When do we get to step out? I don't want to just wish Happy New Year. I want to provide it. If you're interested in doing it, you'll find ways to do it. If you're really not interested, you won't see any possible way to serve others in your life. But you need to desire to do that. And just like what Sharon said, that being critical can become a habit of mind. Well, being nice works the same way. It becomes habit forming. But it has a much better result for everyone in the future. You see, that's the only way we have to affect a perfect future, is to act with impeccability in the moment. Whatever you do right now, whatever you did tonight is going to lead to tomorrow, which will lead to the next day, and like that. Most people who wish others a Happy New Year, they believe in three things really strongly. They believe that a world exists independent of them. That's just dumb. We don't just affect the subatomic and atomic level, we affect the whole thing. Through your participation. So that's a wrong idea, that there's a world out there that's separate from you. It's just wrong. And those people also think time, past, present, and future, exist independently and universally. And they're just not paying attention. Time is relative. How do we know there'll be a future? The only thing you really know just went by. So like I said, it's a moving target, and it's our project for 2017. To try to stay one step ahead of something that moves faster than light itself. Something that I call the speed of the connection, the speed of connectedness, the speed of the heart, instantaneous and always positive.